Okay, so I will just start, and please let me know, yeah, if you cannot hear me, or just drop a message in the box. Now, today I'm going to talk about a career in communication. Of course, I'm focusing more on the digital future, and something that we can really think about, yeah, especially for those of you who are keen in communications or mass communication. I'll explain the difference, later. Just a very quick self introduction. I'm Benny Lim. I have I'm actually the current dean of the Faculty of Liberal Arts in Vijaya University College. And, I've worked 10 years in the industry and also 10 years in higher education. So this is actually my 11th year, yeah, in higher education. And within the Faculty of Liberal Arts in Vijaya University College, we have got a School of Communication and Media Arts, and that's where the communication programs are parked under. So today I'm really just focusing on the communication program, which is parked under the School of Communication and Media Arts, yeah, within the faculty in general. Okay, let's move on. Now, if we talk about communication careers, I mean there are a few things that we can that comes to our mind quite immediately. I mean, this is just a picture that I've taken from a Google search, and you will see things like PR, advertising, films, photography, journalism. They have divided it into three different journalism: print journalism, TV journalism, web journalism, and then we have got radio and social media. I mean, this chart, yeah, or this career chart here, basically covers quite a fair bit of communication career. Of course, that's not all. Yeah, there's actually a lot more, like even in visual, yeah, visual communication, in corporate communication, and so on. Yeah, in integrated marketing communication. So, but this pretty much cover quite a fair bit of the careers that one can do in communication. But there's some problem with this chart, and there's something that I do not quite agree with. Yeah, in particular, that things like social media, web journalism has been kind of excluded and put as standalone. And like personally, to me, is quite interesting that whoever designed this chart, actually created a chart to have standalone in social media and web journalism, because it shows that there isn't much thought, yeah, that actually goes into the whole integration of social media in the whole framework of communication career. What I'm trying to say here is, how has social media actually influenced public relations, or influence events or advertising, journalism, per se. Actually, it's not just as simple as just separating it out as different career, but rather it is really looking at the integration and how, now we are living in the digital age, and how the digital age has actually changed, the way we look at, careers in communication. And in fact, there could be even, future changes, as we use, technology further. I'll talk about it, later on. Now, I mean, I use the term digital age, and actually, what do I mean that we are currently in the digital age? Yeah. So digital age is sometimes also known as the information age, and this is the age that we are currently in. Of course, if you look at some scholars, they cited, or they argued that actually, the digital age actually came about in the 80s. Yeah, some even said in the late 70s or 80s, per se. And so we are still within this, digital and information age. Now, if you are driving, it's just imagine if you are driving, it's almost like driving into a tunnel. It's a one-way tunnel. Yeah, there is no U-turn. So, we are currently in the digital age. We can only move forward. There's no going back. Yeah. And also we can't really quite stop, because, technologies, information communication technologies are evolving, they keep changing. And there's probably no time for us to stop. So we just have to move forward. So even though, digital age has started, since the 80s, yeah, we must recognize that this whole concept of digital age is not constant, it's not consistent. Yeah, so it doesn't remain the same. Yeah, at different point, it is actually a different kind of new technologies, new evolutions. Yeah, in fact, some scholars even argue that this is actually the post digital age, or we are living in the post digital society, which is somehow beyond the first generation, where we are using technology just merely as a kind of support or just as a back end. Now technology is kind of part and parcel of our lives, so it's quite different already in that sense. So we have to start thinking about this, and we have to infuse this idea of digital age within the whole framework of communication and communication careers, per se, which I will talk about very soon. Now, some of you are actually, you might be wondering, so, nowadays when you go to education fair or when you look at some of the university offering, some universities, they offer mass communication, and some university, they offer, communication. So, there is a diploma in mass comm or diploma in communication, bachelor in communication, bachelor in mass communication. So some of you might be a little bit lost, as to why some programs are called mass communication, some programs are called communication. Yeah. So in general, I would say that, communication is the broad term. I mean, we communicate. I mean, we are communicating now. Yeah. Although it might not be as effective. Yeah. If there will be more response or more question, but we are communicating. We are using a technology now for a form of communication. So communication actually happens, at all level, at all times. Yeah. So at any point in time, we might be communicating with people, whether in a small group or sometimes if you have your own WhatsApp group with 30, 40 people inside, it could be a slightly bigger group, or sometimes you're sending out an email to hundreds of people, that is an even bigger group. Yeah. So when we talk about mass communication, we are really looking at mass, a big size. Yeah. And here we talk about mass market. Now, if you could imagine mass communication, we would think about things like television. Yeah, we think about things like newspaper. We will think about areas such as radio. So when the radio show is on, it probably has a mass appeal because a lot of people are listening in at the same time. Same thing for television show, same thing, for other different kind of media that's being used. But however, in today's context, we also realize, and also partially or partly, it has got to do with the advent of this whole digital technology or digital age. Yeah, we are actually, moving into a more niche appeal as well. So we don't just only focus on the mass market. We're starting to look at niche, smaller markets as well. We're communicating to smaller groups of people. We're communicating to more specialized target. Yeah, we're not just looking at everybody. We might just be focusing on certain young people who use YouTube, for example. So it's getting more and more niche in terms of communication. So the whole idea of mass communication could be, the whole idea, could be a little bit outdated at this point in time. And therefore, we adopt a broader term, communication, where actually mass communication is part of. So actually mass communication in a way is still a subset of communication. Yeah. And so when we study communication, we actually study whether it's the mass market appeal or those with a niche market focus as well. So it could cover everything in that sense. So it is actually a broader term here. Yeah. Now, if we were to look at the certain changes, on how these careers, now, I think for communication, one of the key careers that a lot of people go into is actually public relations. When we talk about public relations, we are really, really talking about, reputation management. We're talking about perception management. We're really talking about, in a certain way, sending the brand message to the public, telling people about this brand and probably the good things about the brand as well. But of course, there's also crisis communication, in public relations, so on and so forth. So these are the typical jobs. So a lot of people would imagine in the past, or even not too long ago, when we are talking about a career in public relation. We are thinking about someone who can write very well, someone who needs to write to the media, or who needs to correspond with the media. Yeah, someone who needs to actually come up with ideas to send the brand messages to the public. Now, all these are still true today, but with digital technologies, yeah, there are some new things that are being included. I mean, nowadays when we are shouting out about a company, a brand, for example, we are not just shouting out through traditional media. We are actually shouting out through a wide range, yeah, of social media tools, yeah, like YouTube, Facebook, even LinkedIn. And for different groups, we have different target audience. I mean, for those of you who know that actually today the youngsters might not be using a lot of Facebook, they might be using Instagram more. So for Instagram, the way we craft the message or the way we communicate our brand message to the target could be quite different versus the way where we use Facebook, yeah, where we expect a slightly older, kind of audience, versus LinkedIn, which consists of a group of more professionals, or a group of more professionals, individuals. So there are different target segments for each of these social media tools, and how do we then communicate? How do we then represent a brand, to send our brand messages, to build up our reputation, yeah, to form perceptions? Yeah, is actually quite different. And if you look at the picture, below here, even now within this context of digital, advancement, a lot of companies, this is Apple. I'm sure most of you know, that they are now using this kind of live events, yeah, live telecast, live events. People stay up late just to go on Facebook, YouTube to watch the live events of new product launches, of new updates in technology. And these are really ways to create perception and brand for specific companies. So PR jobs has actually extended beyond a whole realm, that now we are, yes, you still need to write well, but we are writing according to the language of social media as well. Yeah, it's not about writing long stories now as well. It's really crafting the right message for your audience, or for your right audience. Yeah, so these are some new thinking and new changes in public relations. Now, another very popular job, yeah, where communication graduates usually do, will be advertising, and sometimes even marketing. Well, there is a difference, between PR and marketing. Although both eventually, if you are representing a company, both PR and marketing leads to, the eventually enhance sales, or to have, better sales of the product that the company sells. But PR is more indirect, yeah. Marketing is more direct. PR is through brand building, through reputation, whereby marketing, you are really looking at selling the product, identifying the capabilities of the product, and really getting it out, getting people to buy. Yeah, but then communication students actually cross into these two areas, because now it's very common to talk about integrated marketing communication strategies, where these two departments have to really work together closely. Yeah, so communication and marketing, sometimes they complement each other, and they should complement each other. Yeah, but we also start to look at advertising. Advertising jobs actually span across a few areas. Some more creative. You are involved in the creative part of advertising. Some will be more account servicing. You are looking at servicing some account. You're looking at also, in a way, a kind of public relations with your clients. Yeah, but more so, we are starting to see that even within advertising, technologies has really come in. I mean, a lot of us, if you look at the picture, a lot of us will get to see this kind of boards, yeah, banners that's on the street. I mean, in the past, it could just be a poster with really nothing. It's a static poster. It's a piece of poster that's put inside a panel on the street, or if you go to the shopping mall, you can see this panel. Or if you go to the train station, or if you go to the bus stop, sometimes, yeah, you will see these panels. But as time goes by, you see that now we are using digital panels, And the use of digital panels actually give rise to new ways of operation, because now we are looking at designs, we are looking at this kind of panels that could actually continue some sort of interaction with the users, yeah, with the audience. So it's not just static, yeah, it's something that now in advertising they have to think hard about, and it's not just the front end of things that are changing, even within the back end, yeah, in advertising for example, like a lot of you are aware that in Malaysia we have got a lot of billboards, and now billboards are using technology to actually track, yeah, how their frequency and their reach. They are using billboards to track how many people has actually seen the billboard, through technology. So it's the back end also. Of course, we are starting to see in the front end more and more digital billboards. Yeah, as you drive along the road, you'll be able to see that. So you will see that actually, technologies have also widened the scope, yeah, of advertising and marketing. Although a static poster now, you have to think about the interactivity behind, yeah, the kind of user experience behind, and you have to think of ways to engage people with your product or with your advertising message somehow or the other. So it is where, what I wrote there, screen cultures. Yeah, we are now all fixed to various screens. Yeah, we look at multiple screens, today, from your handphone screen to your, computer screen to your TV screen. So advertising has to consider all these different screen cultures and how to come up with messages or advertising messages that fits with all these different screens, that we are exposed to on a daily basis, that we look at without even thinking on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So this is something to really think about. And of course, journalism has played a major part in digital age. But as I said earlier, I don't quite like the idea that we separate web journalism from, traditional TV or print journalism, although they could be different in nature in the way they operate. But we are starting to see also, for example, print journalism, they are also going into the electronic sphere. They have to go into the cyberspace to, if not, they will lose out. Yeah, they have to catch up. And that's why we are starting to see that now there's also online version, even though it could be the traditional print media like the Star, like New Straits Times or the Sun. We have got the e-edition, per se, or you can go online and you can actually pick up the news online as well. That they have to cater, even though they are considered the traditional media per se. Same thing. There's also a rise of what I call solo journalism. Yeah. Now, a journalist has to really take on all sorts of roles. I have friends who are journalists, they are being assigned to different places. They go to North Korea, they go to certain war zone, and actually, all they have is their little smartphone or tablet device where they can do live just using a video selfie, so that they could actually send out news just like that. So it has changed. And of course, because of technology, because of the cyberspace, it is also there is also what I call a lower barrier, yeah, to entering journalism. Whereby we start to see that people, if you are really keen in particular area, you could even start your own news media. Yeah, online. You could just maintain an online blog. You can be the only journalist, or together with one or two friends, and you can start something, and you could do something about it as well. So the whole idea of journalism has evolved, yeah, in this digital age. So it's not just web journalism. We have to think about the idea of citizen journalism. We have to think about solo journalism. We have to think about how journalists now has to use a multitude of technologies in order to operate effectively. It's not just carrying a notebook and write notes anymore. I mean, now even for print or broadcast journalism, they will go for their interview with their smartphone, and they have apps where if they interview someone, the words will come out, yeah, straight away, on their apps. So it has all changed in this era. And of course, and another part which in a lot of communication program, yeah, they did not really include or did not have a strong focus in, is what I call visual communication. Now, I mean, visual communication is still different from design, although there's a lot of overlap with design, per se. I mean, when we talk about design, there's really two main purpose of design, but I will consider the first main purpose to be more prominent. When we talk about design, we are always thinking about design to solve a problem. Yeah, so that's why we use design as a form of problem solving. Yeah, you design so that you could solve a problem. Of course, the other aspect of design, which is also very important, is the aesthetic. Yeah, it must look beautiful. It looks good. But a lot of time, design is not just about how beautiful it is, right? It's also about how practical, how useful it is. So in a way, visual com is also part of the first, design, as a solution, but it has a main purpose of communicating. We're using visual as a form of communication too. Because of this visual, we need to communicate some message to whoever that's reading it, to the audience. And in this digital age, there is a whole range of changes because when we talk about visual communication, we're not just talking about how strong the font is. It's not just about that, but it's really about the user experience. If people were to use an app, how friendly is the app? If we were to use a website, how friendly is the website? If we were to look at some infographics, how clear are the infographics? It's really about the user experience. And of course, the user interface, yeah, which is the design part, the layout. So these are also things that have started to change. And in fact, the UI designers are of huge demands today, yeah, within this whole sphere. And move on to broadcasting. I mean, when we talk about broadcasting, a lot of us will think about entertainment industry, yeah. But of course, when we talk about entertainment, we're talking about specific TV show, variety show. What we see is really the front line. Com students take part a lot in the back end, yeah, in broadcast, yeah, whether they are the producers, they work in the studios, or they're handling technical equipment, they're handling cameras, they are doing editing, they're writing, they are doing research. They could be doing a whole lot of back end work. And in traditional media like TV, like radio, it's always a very one-sided communication. We have TV that's communicating. If you're watching TV, the TV is telling you the information, it's giving you the information. The radio is giving you the information. Well, you can feedback. I mean, for radio, you can call in. For TV, you can write your letter, you can write email to give your opinion. But it is not an instant, not immediate. Yeah. In the digital age, we are really looking at a whole new spectrum. And there's this rise of the group of people, what we call prosumer, a kind of a combination between a producer, someone who create content, versus someone who consume content. And now we can play the role of both. We are consuming a lot of content, but now we can also produce content. Yeah, we can also produce in response, yeah, to certain things. And we are so quick. I mean, there could be some funny news that came out 2 days ago, and within 5 hours, you could see that some people have already come out with some sort of a content, maybe to talk about this issue that was funny. I mean, things like that. Yeah, we can all use a range of technology like TikTok. It could really help us to create a lot of short videos. We can create our own series, our own drama series. Yeah, even using TikTok alone, short little videos that could help us. And we could even have episodes. And we can now create while we are still consuming. So this whole idea of prosumer, of course, prosumer means a lot more. That we can also take other people's, like content, and we can try to change it, adopt it, appropriate it, and create something new out of it. I mean, that's possible as well. So the whole broadcast is no longer just based on the mass TV kind of communication, radio kind of communication. We can create our own podcast today. Tomorrow, if I set up a website using free web portals like Weebly or Tumblr, I probably could create my own radio channel station tomorrow and create my own content and have my own podcast and put it out. So, now communication is quite different. And does it mean that, we won't be able to make money out of it if we create it on our own? Well, it's not true. Yeah. It really, again, in this whole communication, sector, a lot of time it depends on our audience. How many audience do we have? Yeah. This is how newspaper work. This is how television work. Yeah. It's really looking at audience number. But wait, yeah. I mean, it's not all. It's not about just how the digital tools or how we are using, these digital technologies to help us, because there are opportunities through what we call communication research. I mean, if you are doing a bachelor degree, yeah, you probably have to do a final year project. You probably have to do, a final, research project. And there's a lot of things for us to think about in communication. And I like this quote, although this quote is not, absolutely created uh, by McLuhan, but he's definitely one of the key person that made this quote really very popular. I mean, especially the second line. Yeah. So we become what we behold. We shape our tools, and thereafter our tools shape us. So a lot of time, we use certain tools to help us, but we have to acknowledge that these tools, these technologies that we use, supposedly these technologies or these tools were used because of our demand for it, but it will eventually change the way we operate as well. I mean, just take a look at Grab. Yeah. We started using the Grab app because we have a demand for calling, for calling taxis, and we don't want to go on the street, or sometimes we get cheated. We don't want to hail from the street. It's hard to get taxis. So we have this app. So our demand generated or created this app. But after some time, you will see that this app has actually shaped us as well, changed the way we operate completely. Yeah. Now we are no longer just thinking of using it as just calling cars. We can even buy groceries, yeah, off Grab now. And it has changed the way we operate. We think about things. We don't even think of going to the street and hail taxi now. The thought is not even there anymore. It changes us. So from a communication perspective, actually, as more and more careers or jobs in communication uses this technology will one day reshape this communication sector. And that's why, through studies, like, through a bachelor program, it's very important to do research, to identify new opportunity, to do projects, to identify future possibilities, to be the trendsetters. Yeah. I mean, just a very quick introduction of the communication programs in Bajai University College. Now we have the foundation in arts and social science, which is a more general, foundation for anyone that is keen in the arts and social science discipline. Yeah. So you can study this foundation, and you can go into business, you can go into hospitality. There's no issue. Yeah. And then we have got a diploma, a 2-year diploma in public relations, and we have got a bachelor in communication, which is a 3-year bachelor. And I mean, just to show you some sort of the pathway. Yeah. So if you were to start with, if you come in with SPM or O level, then you can go through the 1-year foundation and then go through the 3-year degree, or you can go through the 2-year diploma and then maybe the 2-year degrees. Maybe you can have 1 year in the foundation, and then you could think about whether you really want to do, communication after that 1 year. If so, then you have 3 years to finish your communication degree. Yeah. And usually, in year 3 of the degree, you are supposed to come up with a final year project, a final research project. And this is where you could think about new trends and new possibilities in communication. Okay, so I think that's about it. I share my email address here. If you have any questions, you can always just write to me. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Please feel free to write to me if you have any questions. All right. Thank you.